All right, do you want to flesh any of this out, or you just want to go for it?
What's that? Dude, we got this. Can you hear that music coming through?
Oh, yeah, I can hear it. It's very nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first... Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, boy.
All right. Yeah, so Randy, the cheap audio man, and I came up with a really cool idea that we hope is going to work. We'll probably fail. And that is to start up a podcast. And
Yeah.
what do we decide to call this, Randy?
We called it a beginner's guide to goat husbandry. No, it's the Ron and Randy Audio Hour.
I want to make a point of something. I wanted to call it the Randy and Ron Audio Hour because we all know who the real superstar is of this show, but you are a
Nope.
you're a very stubborn man, my friend.
I just thought Ron and Randy sounded better.
Yeah, it might, maybe, we'll see. So we
Ron,
have.
Can you hear that? Can you hear this on my end?
Yes, it sound. Are you cooking right now? Is that mac and cheese?
Hold on, one more time. It's a coffee transportation device.
Ah, nice. Hey,
What I'm trying to do is pour the old coffee out of my mug so that I can pour new coffee into it.
Got it. Got it. I have a question for you.
Please.
And I don't think this has been brought up. I've only watched 2 of your videos, so I don't I don't know if this has been discussed.
Yeah, I don't blame you. They're not remotely entertaining.
You're like, yeah, I've only watched 2 of my own videos too.
You can actually do that, like rewatch your videos back. I thought you just sent it out and it was gone forever.
It's gone into the cloud. It's into the cloud.
Into the internet cloud.
So, how do you take your coffee? Are you?
Well, generally, I start off with a couple drops of vanilla.
Okay.
And then I'll add some Hellmann's mayonnaise, and then fill it up the rest of the way with coffee.
You do not add mayo to your coffee. Please tell me that is not true. That is disgusting.
No,
you're messing with me. All right.
I am. It's just black coffee.
It almost reminds me, I did keto a while back, and do you know what like a bullet coffee is? I think they call it bullet.
Is that when people put like butter in their coffee?
Dude, they like load it up with like lard and, it's just like, yeah. And I would imagine that somebody out there has put mayo in their coffee.
Whole bunch of saturated fats.
Saturated fats, yeah. I'll say this, it was the best that I have ever felt in my entire life. I dropped a ton of weight. I felt great. And I hated everything that I ate. I just was like, I don't want to eat. If I see another avocado, I just can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. When you throw it.
All right, guys, we're back. Had some technical difficulties there. I think we got it figured out. We use what's called Source Connect. That's the way that Randy and I are making this happen, and it just kind of freaked out on us. But we're back.
I breathed on it.
Randy breathed on it, and this is the result. Yeah. This is the end result.
Yeah.
Okay,
like my father trying to program a VCR. Why is it blinking zeros at me? Put in the cassette tape and let's watch Karate Kid for the 5th time.
They don't make movies like that anymore, Randy, man. I wish they did. They were great.
I do, too. I was talking about in my live stream. It's funny. In my live stream, we literally talked about movies for like 20 minutes. Like all the good 80s movies.
Randy's movie hour. Yeah.
Big Trouble in Little China. Die Hard. What else did we talk about? Escape from New York. Escape from L.A.
Yeah.
A lot of good ones.
Yeah. Big Trouble Little China, man. Dude, that was one that was just... I think that the tape on the VCR just eventually just wore out, man. We played that thing a lot. Did
you ever watch They Live with Roddy Piper?
I don't think I saw that one. I think I Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell.
You need to do yourself a favor and go watch that, Jen.
Stop the podcast. It's over. I'm going to go watch that. Yeah. It's more important.
We should just put it on in the background and then watch it and then comment on it. Kind of like a mystery, what is it?
Mystery Science Theater? Oh, dude, it is the best. Yeah. I'd love to do that. That'd be great. All right. So this is obviously our first podcast. As you can see, we are... we're not talking audio right now. Ron and Randy's. We can.
We're leaving that option open.
We might. On episode 23, we'll dive into audio.
That's right. 23rd. That's a nice round number, Ron.
Basically, we don't know what the heck we're doing, but what we wanted to do was start up a podcast and kind of see where this goes. The other day we sat down and we talked about what would be the first podcast, what would that look like, and, you know, what kind of things could we talk about. And the main topic that we wanted to tackle with just a couple of talking points was, number one, how do we get into hi-fi and why we love it? Number two, early systems. Number three, about our channels. And number four, what is the purpose of this podcast?
It seemed like you did a lot of work on your end, Ron.
I just wrote down 4 things, Randy. That's it. There's no sub bullets here. That's it. That's as far.
All right. Did you format it in like a word processing document?
Yes, I did.
A word processor?
A word processor. So, let me ask you, bro. How did you get into hi-fi? What is your earliest memory of going, oh, this is kind of cool?
Well, I don't even know if I ever called it hi-fi. So I would say, okay, this is a weird story. I grew up on a farm, all right? And I have an older brother, and they started a tradition in my family to where the 6-year-old boy on his birthday would get a BB gun, a weapon that fires circular spheres of metal at things. I wanted to forego that, and I wanted a Walkman. And so I asked my mom and dad, I don't want the BB gun, I want this instead. And they were cool about it. And I remember it was like 60 or $70, so it wasn't an inexpensive gift back then. And it had orange like ear covers. It was just like, and I think I gotta remember what year Back to the Future was, but I think seeing that movie, I wanted to do what Marty McFly was doing, and that's put on my headphones and run around on a skateboard and hold on to vehicles. The problem is where I lived, the streets were gravel, so the skateboarding thing was out. However, the Walkman was in. So that's my first kind of entrance into it. And then fast forward, so I was 6. Fast forward, I was probably in, I don't even know, maybe 8 or 9. I found there was an old, what do you call it? You buy like washers and dryers and fridges from them, right?
Yeah.
And this was like every little town had one of these. And they had some speakers and some hi-fi gear in there as well. So I would go in there and I would just look at the speakers and was just fascinated by them.
Yeah.
And they somehow got a hold of a used realistic receiver, and you know, they were nice. I think they gave me a big discount on it, and I cobbled together. I had a realistic receiver. I bought a pair of Kenwood tower speakers that had a passive radiator on them. And I didn't even know what a passive radiator was. And then I got a Emerson CD player when Walmart still sold separates components. And my first CD was NXS Kick.
Oh, dude, great one.
Yeah.
It's classic.
What about you, man?
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. So for me, it was junior high. My brother and I were learning how to play guitar, and both of us learning at the same time, which was really cool and something that definitely connected us. And we were over at my stepdad's house for visitation with my mom, and we were eating, I remember the day so well. It's just crazy how you remember these things. We were eating spaghetti, finishing up, and my stepdad was like, hey, how are things going with guitar? Are you guys learning? And we're like, yeah, we learned green sleeves today, and stuff like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And he said, are you guys like, learning like some rock songs? And we're like, we wish. Like, no, we don't. We're not there yet. We're just on green sleeves. And he was like, hey, have you guys heard Neil Young? And both John and I, thinking that maybe that's John Denver, like, what? Who's that? And he's like, come on, boys, and
come on into my lovely
yeah,
office.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So pulled us into the living room, and he had this old, 80s kind of like that cliche, stacked up system, just component after component after component with these big tower Kenwood speakers. And he grabbed Neil Young's Decade. It's my prized possession. It means the world to me. He gave me this album that started my journey, and it was Neil Young's Decade. He pulls it out, drops the needle on Cinnamon Girl, and I think it was just happenstance. I just got lucky that I was probably sitting where I needed to be sitting to experience what I did, but game over. I mean, the room came to life, and I was hearing things in a way that just I think back, like, what was my reaction to that? And it was almost borderline like fear, because you can't quite comprehend what's happening to you. You're like, this is
a lot of stimulation going on, Ron.
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. So all this, just like, what the crud is happening right now?
Sensory overload.
Dude, it was great. And so that was it for me, man. That was the blood in the water. At that point, obsession, start, go, And then I was always like the kid that would take apart like my Christmas presents, like day one.
Right, yeah.
Drive my parents crazy. So
like the Tonka truck never ran again.
He never ran again.
No, it wasn't Tonka. What was the little one? Took 1 AA battery. They had little foam wheels, and you could turn them on, switch them on and off. I don't remember what they were. I took those apart.
I don't know. I'm not sure what that was. But I was a big G.I. Joe kid. But anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, G.I. Joe.
Do you want to... Let's take a bird walk real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit the timeout. You want to hear about G.I. Joe?
Yeah.
This channel, my cheap audio man, would not exist had it not been for G.I. Joe action figures that my parents moved to Arizona. They had a whole big box of toys that I used to have. And no, I'm serious, man. And my mom was like, for years and years, hey, do you want me to sell these at a garage sale? And I'm like, nah, just hold on. They don't take up too much space. So anyway, they moved to Arizona. They drop off this big box of stuff. And this stuff had been in a box for like 35 years, if not longer. And I was really fastidious about like all of their weapons and everything. So I put them up on eBay. I was just going to sell the whole box for like $100. And then I was like, no, I'm going to put these up individually on eBay and see, what the market thinks they're worth. Dude, I sold like Snake Eyes went for over $100.
Are you serious?
I swear to you. And there's a bunch of other ones that were like obscure I didn't think would go. So there's like two or three figures went for $100.
Oh my goodness sakes.
I took all that money and I just started buying hi-fi stuff. Whoops,
there you go.
I hit my mic. And it was Star Wars and G.I. Joe, and I still have some to finish up and sell. But that is the only... Now, I had stuff, but that was the only reason that this channel even exists, is because of old G.I. Joe action figures and vehicles.
I gotta say, I'm glad you didn't sell all the action figures, because had you did, how would we know the size of the speakers that you're reviewing had you made that mistake? Because it's the only way that we can determine.
It's a solid frame of reference for people.
It is. Absolutely. Every time I watch your channel, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, a tape measure would be...
Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And that would be a Jawa vehicle, the vehicle where they stored and picked up garbage and then sold it to unsuspecting farmers. Moisture farmers.
Who needs a tape measure when you have action figures? Who needs one? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't have a tape measure, so it was Chewbacca or nothing.
Early systems. So you had that Emerson rig. Where did you go from there? Like what, like, I mean, obviously you're the cheap audio man, and we're going to talk about our channels in a minute, but like, did you stick with like affordable hi-fi as you continued doing this? Like
Well, yeah, for sure, man, because I was a kid, right?
yeah,
So the
right.
only money I had was, I worked for my dad on the farm, but it's not like he paid me. I got to eat and sleep in a bed, so that was my payment. It was, odd jobs here and there, and a lot of it was used. I didn't go, I'm telling, we lived rural, so it's not like I went to a big store or anything. So it was the stuff that came through that old appliance store,
Mm,
and there's a Walmart in the town like 30 miles away. So I would say after junior high and high school, I mean I still had that same system in high school, but I guess I hit the pause button and I kind of switched over to car audio.
okay.
So I was the guy that like you would order a tape deck, new stereo off of hell. I think Crutchfield was around back then. Order from Crutchfield, and then they would get it, and I'd be the guy that would rip apart their dash and put it in. And I did the same thing on my system too. So I went from being more of a home audio guy to being like the guy that would install the car stereos for everybody, and we'd have wires hanging out all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was back then, man. The speaker to have was like a triangle Pioneer speaker that would sit in the back deck of your car,
Yeah.
and that was the speaker to have.
Yeah. Dude, I get that. I worked at Circuit City and Best Buy, and when I worked at Circuit City, there was a short period of time where I was the install manager of installations, and so I had to learn some of that stuff as well. And I remember my mind being completely blown when you do the battery check to check for polarity of speakers, because you wire all the stuff in the car and you're like, which one's positive, which one's negative, and you know what I'm talking about. You just do the leads on the AA battery,
Right.
and then you can see whether the cone is moving, inward or outward to determine the polarity of the speaker.
Right. I never did any of that.
It was great, man. It was good times. Yeah, Kicker was a big brand for us. I remember everybody wanted Kicker. Everybody was obsessed.
They
with
still
Kicker.
are, man.
Yeah,
They're up in Oklahoma.
that's really wow. That's interesting.
And
Huh.
I think Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, they have a big. I've never been there, but yeah, they still do. I have a lot of Kicker stuff.
Yeah.
I have a DSP. It's called Front Row. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Messes with the time. You can move the basically the center image wherever you want in the car. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff in it.
Do you find yourself enjoying audio in the car? Like, is that a place where you're like, I'm going to listen to music and I'm going to enjoy this? Do you dig that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I listen to audio in the car a lot, but the thing about it is you got probably 50 or 60 dB of background noise. So
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like you're going to be doing critical listening. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'll turn on my playlists or whatever and rock out, and you don't have to worry about high res music because, like I said, you're not going to be able to hear any difference anyway. But
Yeah.
that's the first thing I do is I'll upgrade the system in my car, the kids' car, my wife's car. Yeah.
That's awesome,
time.
man. Very cool. Well, that's cool, man. I like you. I was a kid. I did not have money, and so my first rig was. It's funny. I keep saying rig. My first rig, Randy. My first legitimate rig was
Yeah.
Logitech. It was
Nice.
yeah. No, it's like this Logitech 5.1 system, and at that time, I was bouncing between being obsessed with audio and hi-fi, and then also being an avid gamer. And so there was
boy.
those two things collide. Well, what do? You go out and you buy a Logitech 5.1,
Yeah. And
surround
an
system.
Atari 2600.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right.
Pitfall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raiders
Yeah.
of the Lost Ark, which is impossible. And Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man.
Randy just
Son of
celebrated
Pac-Man.
his 76th birthday, if you guys were
Oh, yeah.
curious about just the
Yeah.
reference of
Our
age.
ages. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. And then from there, I mean, you know, one of the greatest things, if not the greatest thing about working at Circuit City was we were able to buy everything at cost. And so being able to cycle through speakers was a thrill because I could get anything from Polk or whatever at cost. And so slowly but surely, at that time I lived in Minnesota.
Ooh, nice and warm up there.
Yep. I was literally, bro, I was that kid in the basement. The reason I can make fun of anybody that comes on our channel and decides to be a troll is I was that kid that I was literally in my girlfriend's basement down there, you know, stockpiling Cokes and Hot Pockets and wrappers and, you know, playing World of Warcraft. But I had a killer rig, man. It was, I had like full surround sound, Polk audio, you know, their monitor series, their speaker, like it was insane. And yeah, that was me. It was fun.
My first, like, big boy, or I wouldn't even call it big boy, I'd say expensive system. So let's back up. So when I was in college, I bought my first surround receiver from Sears. Sears, man, they had actually pretty solid audio department.
Yeah.
And I think it was a Yamaha 5.1, and I watched Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, man.
Classic.
I was hooked.
Classic.
I was hooked. And then when I was in the military, I bought a Bose Acoustimass 5.1.
Awesome.
And I still have it.
Yeah.
Like, I still have that system. It's upstairs. I actually have repurposed the sub just to try it in different areas. And it works fine. It works great. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of... it doesn't go down very deep. But it still works, man.
Yeah.
All of it does.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I remember, man, we would blow that stuff out the door. And every single time that somebody would go to like the Bose, because Bose would like invest in a proper display. Like they would send us these big long arms that would come off of like an end cap where the surround sound speakers would be connected to well above and behind the listener. And then they would have this panel, they would press a button to, you know, engage.
Yeah, I remember that, man.
Yeah, engage the rig. And then it was like that scene from Jurassic Park or that scene from Back to the Future or whatever it was. And it was just like, people were like, I don't need to look any further. This is the one I want, you know? And of course, like the wife was like nodding in agreement, like, well, that was easy. These are tiny speakers. This is great.
Right. I can put it behind the plant.
Exactly.
Here's the thing, man. I think So when I got out of the Navy and I was so proud of my Bose system, and I was talking to these guys, and they pooped all over my Bose system, told me that it wasn't good, and I was crushed because I was so proud of this system.
Yeah.
And I would argue that Bose has led the way and paved that road for a entry into the higher end audio than any other company out there, because a lot of people bought that and were fine with it, but a lot of people bought that and they're like, I wonder if there's anything better.
Yeah. No, I agree. They have, you know, the thing about it is, you know, of the arguments that you can make against, you know, the sound quality of Bose from an audiophile perspective, the one thing you can't say is that they weren't brilliant with marketing and they weren't brilliant with getting their products in the right homes, and they dominated the market. They did a great job with it. So, yeah.
Well, they made it kind of commonplace for a multi-channel system.
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah.
They laid that like in a subwoofer. Like every system should have a subwoofer. And
yeah.
I just don't think it would be as widely accepted. I mean, you go to a new house, oftentimes they're wired for surround now.
Yeah.
And I don't think without them that where we're at now and the adoption of home theater would be anywhere close to where it's at. But that's pure speculation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm talking on my rear end. Who knows?
You know, another thing that was really interesting thinking about this back, you know, I mean, it's kind of unfair, but I think that working at Circuit City was the very first time where organically I started learning that all of these systems have different fingerprints. You know, it's like, as an example,
flavors.
Different flavors of hi-fi ice cream, absolutely. And, you know, one of the things that I caught on to early, like our best-selling system, by far, any time that somebody would walk in, and obviously we were all on commission, so it was just so dorky. We'd literally be waiting at the entryway as people walk in, shuffling in from the cold snow, and then we would be like, who gets them? Who gets them? It's like the most ridiculous. Like, how welcoming is that to have a bunch of, you know, dodo brains standing at the door waiting to take your money? But nonetheless, the audio rig that we would always take people to was Onkyo every single time. And it's like we all knew that it was going to be the surround sound system, you know, if they were looking for something especially that was affordable, because I think it was like $500 or $600, one of those home theater boxes.
And it was like a home theater in a box. Yeah, home theater in a box.
Home theater in a box, dude. It blew people's minds. It was loud. It was dynamic. It was punchy. But nonetheless, what we discovered is every single time that we'd pull Onkyos out of the box, they were great. Like, wow, these guys are killing it, you know? So it was interesting, man. It's like you start learning, like, we have some great gear that we can be chatting about in here, and it just kind of happened, you know, on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other, like, anything that sticks out in your mind, like any higher end stuff that you had at Circuit City that you're just like, ooh, if they really want to step up, this is what I'm showing them?
Yeah. It was near the end of commission days, but around that time, Circuit City got a deal with Velodyne. And when Velodyne came into our doors and we started having Velodyne subs, as well as like Velodyne did their home theater in a box, which would be like their sub and then these satellites. And it was, at that time, I think it was like $2,000 for everything, which compared to these home theater in a boxes that were $500 to up to $1,000, like let's say that was a big leap. But dude, when you heard that system, it was like, okay, so we're no longer messing around. Like, we're not playing around anymore. It was obvious that that was money well spent when you moved up into that system.
And would you have them like A-B it? Okay, listen to the Onkyo and come over here and listen to this thing?
Yes, but the unfortunate reality is it wasn't really fair because a lot of the cheap rigs were like in the aisles and set up very wonky, like awful. Whereas the Velodyne system was like in what we called the salon room, where it's like you walk in and everything was set up the way that it should be. So the truth is, being honest about it, it's like, had those other systems been given a fair shake, they might have performed better. But nonetheless, dude, it was crazy how good that system actually was, you know, comparing. It was like, this is very good stuff.
So here's a follow-up question for that.
Yeah.
Since you were, I mean, say what you will, in the industry or whatever, and now you review a lot of high-end stuff, and you've been doing this for a lot longer than I have. I've just been going to the stores. So here's the question. Obviously, the ability to go into a brick-and-mortar store and audition a system is fundamentally almost gone.
Yeah.
Unless it's super high-end stuff, super specialized, you're making an appointment, you're going in there. Where does audio go at this point? Is it just, you better have a really decent return policy? Because I just don't, you go into Best Buy, and maybe you can go into Magnolia. You go to, I don't know if you have Fry's. They used to have listening rooms, but now Fry's is, I don't think, going to last very long. But where can you go? Where can someone go to get an intro into home theater or hi-fi?
Dude, it's such a good question, and it's such, I mean, that we could do an entire podcast about this because it starts with, you know, the advent and the change in e-commerce as soon as Amazon, you know, came into play. And even more, I think that hi-fi in general or audio in general, anything that was like a department or a part of a store, it just became smaller and smaller and kind of pushed back and into the corner. And with it, I think music in general has been treated that way for a very long time. It's not really recognized as something that is important enough that there should be a store that you can go to actually experience hi-fi. And so it's a challenge. So where do my guys go if I have my guys? I think they would be going to shows. I mean, that's kind of the last remaining stop for the high end, the crazy stuff. But obviously COVID, that well, that changed things around to where we don't have that. And so I think
it was already moving in that direction to begin with, right?
It absolutely was. And so, yeah. And so, I don't want to pretend that there's not, brick and mortar stores out there that are still doing this and hanging in there, because there are, and there was only one in town here. I'm in, Phoenix area. There was only one high-end store that I knew of that I could go to and listen to the good stuff. And it's gone. It closed down. It didn't, and this was even before COVID. And so it just goes to show you, like, it's not easy trying to keep the doors open to a lot of the brick and mortar places. So it's a good question, and it's a complex answer. It's like, well, where do we go? Yeah.
I don't know, man. I live in Dallas, Fort Worth, and there's like 7.7 million people here.
Yeah.
And there's maybe a half dozen places, and most of those are like, you got to make an appointment.
By appointment only. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is some, what I would call, you can walk into it. I can't remember what, Star Power or something like that. But I called around to try to see if they had some stuff in stock, and they're like, you could tell that the guy answering the phone didn't really know what he was talking. Well, okay, yeah. I got to check with the warehouse. So, I don't know, man. It's a crazy, weird time, and everybody's got their earbuds, and they're listening to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever it is, and nobody's worrying about speakers anymore.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Let's talk about our channels.
Let's do that, Ron.
Let's do that. I felt like I was almost like when you do that. Let's talk about bass. Let's talk about mid-range. I love it, dude. I love your cuts, man. As soon as you're reaching for the cup, I'm like, time to transition, folks. Buckle up.
It is, man. And a lot of that grew organically from my inability to edit videos. So I just knew, okay, when I move the coffee mug, that's time to go in and put in my ridiculous intro or transition screens that I made in the photo app on a Microsoft PC.
Georgia always dances to your treble music, whatever you have going on, and she loves it. She'll start dancing that. She loves that little jingle you got there.
Yeah, it's from like an 80s video game.
Yeah, she loves it. It's great. So, Cheap Audio Man.
Yeah. That's me.
Tell me
It's me over here.
Tell me about your channel. Like, what's your objective? What are your focuses? What are you trying to accomplish? Where are you going? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, okay. So that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
So I'll just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
I've always been crazy interested in audio. And when COVID hit, I was like, okay, I want some decent headphones. So I went on that journey. And then I learned about planar magnetic and all that stuff. Okay, so I went down that rabbit hole. And then, like, I always had a system, but I wanted to kind of step it up. And I was watching your channel and everybody else's channel. I sold all that G.I. Joe stuff, and I went out and bought a pair of Kef LS50 used, and I bought a Moon by Sim Audio integrated amp used. And that stuff retails, the amp retails for $2,500, and I think it's still sold. And the LS50, has been replaced by the Meta, but those are, $1,200-$1,500. I was so excited, put them up, and I turned them on, and I was utterly underwhelmed.
Wow.
And don't get me wrong, it sounded good. But what I was continued to roll through my mind is, okay, this is what you get for $4,000, because for $4,000 this better take me to another place. And it just didn't. And it made me mad. it made me mad, and I was like, I kind of got upset. I'm like, all right. So I sold both of those immediately, and I took all that money and I started buying stuff that was more affordable, still well regarded, like the Klipsch RP 600M, the ELAC Debut B6, stuff that was reviewed really well. And I listened to it on my AVR receivers, and I'm like, man, I'm enjoying this more than I enjoyed the KEF LS50. And I would always babble on about it to my coworkers. And one of them was a younger cat, and he was like, dude, you should start a YouTube channel. And one morning, I have this, have you ever seen the movie Old School?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I have a Speaker City t-shirt. And I put on my Speaker City t-shirt, and I was messing around in the office. I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it. So I grabbed, I think, the KEF LS50, the RP600M, and I can't remember what other speaker. Oh, the ELAC Unify UB5. And I put them on the desk behind me. I took my Android phone. I put it on a tripod. No mic. And I just hit record. And I just started talking. And that was my first video. And I don't know, man. It just kind of like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about it. And I just thought, this, first of all, I don't want anybody to be intimidated if they want to get a system. And thinking that, oh, I need to buy, because a lot of those channels would be like, oh, Klipsch RP 600M is an entry-level speaker. And hearing that made me mad too. I'm like, entry-level? No, this is great. This could be someone's end point in their journey. And it just kind of, it happened naturally. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to review as many products as I can that are probably below like the $600 level, because that's something that is like achievable. Someone can save up and buy $600 pair of speakers, run it on their AVR for a while, and then buy maybe a $500 or $600 integrated amp, and then maybe go out and buy a $500 or $600 or even a $300 turntable. And at the end of the day, you've got a killer system in its entirety for what maybe a decent set of what people call an audiophile speaker or decent audiophile amp. And it just grew that way. And my main goal is just to get people into the hobby and not be intimidated by the crazy, I don't know, expensive gear.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. We like it over here at the Cheap Audio Man Studios.
It's interesting, just thinking about, I was just sitting here listening to that and kind of just nodding my head in agreement. And it's fascinating that even though, now, to be fair to myself, I have reviewed affordable stuff over the years. I've kind of gone back and forth.
No, I watched you have a video, and you have the B6, the ELAC Debut B6, and a bunch of other gear in there that's all affordable.
Yeah.
I watched that one a while ago, man.
Yeah, Cheap and Cheerful Hi-Fi. That was a fun video to do. But what was fascinating and interesting hearing what you just said about your channel is that we have one common thread already, regardless of what it is that we are reviewing, like where our heart is or what we are hoping to achieve is actually exactly the same, in that I just want people to get into this and not be intimidated by it. I don't want them to feel like, that getting into hi-fi is like getting into some kind of a club where you need to be invited. That's the biggest, if there's anything that ruffles my feathers, is this attitude that you can't get into this because, you're not good enough, or you don't have cool enough of a rig, or you have a Bose system or whatever. It's like,
right.
That is a load of crap. It's like, however you want to enjoy the flavor of hi-fi, I don't give a rat's rear end. If some of my setup tips or ideas or suggestions can help you achieve even more than what you thought was possible, great. But if you're happy with where you're at, great. Like, just join us, and let's make hi-fi more than just McDonald's, where it's just, who cares about it? Let's make it a little bit more than that. I think it deserves that kind of respect.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you talked about audiophile, and that's such a moving target, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who gets to label? Is there an audiophile rating society that out there that slaps a sticker that says this is audiophile approved equipment? No.
Yeah. Right.
It's an ambiguous, nebulous statement that some people that I would consider to be a bit snooty look down upon others. And at the end of the day, it's about musical enjoyment. And to your point, if you're enjoying your music, then that's all that matters. And I said something at the end of one of my videos, and it kind of stuck, is don't binge watch, binge listen, and fill your soul with happiness. And I truly believe that. I mean, sit back in that chair, put on a live record from start to finish, and just listen to it and
It's
just
true.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's what, for me, that's what this is all about, is just enjoy the music. Whatever you need to do to enjoy the music, do it.
I couldn't have said it better. I completely agree. Amen to that. You know, it's like at the end of the day, you know, we're so distracted. You know, I mean, we're more distracted than we've ever been. And life is chaotic. Things are crazy. You turn on the TV or you open up Facebook and things are insane. And, you know, putting on a record, putting on a pair of headphones, you know, playing Spotify, however you're doing it, when you just kind of set the phone to the side and the distractions to the side, it's like, I completely agree with you. It's like you will start to find, like, I think, just some kind of a peace in chaos. It's like,
Absolutely.
I can breathe a little bit and know what it's like to be human and just to experience something that is confounding. Like, you can't understand some of the things that are happening, and it's a thrill. It's so much fun, you know.
Well, and I think music is, I think it's never been enjoyed more than it is now. Everyone's, all the kids, I've got teenagers, and everybody has headphones on, earbuds on, and they're rolling around, and they do like the music. There is a definite enjoyment of music. And I have a friend who we were talking, and I said, his name's Mike, and I'm like, Mike, you're not hearing all of the music. He's like, what do you mean? I go, there's so much more out there. I go, let me bring some speakers over. And I'm not talking about expensive stuff.
Yeah, right.
I'm talking about, let me bring the Pioneer 22-LRs over.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear stuff in songs that you've never heard before. And that is the hook. That's what got me, is I'm listening to, I don't know, Def Leppard, Hysteria, or Def Leppard, Pyromania. Or heck, I listened to Vogue by Madonna last night. And if you haven't listened to that, man, on a good set of speakers that image and soundstage well, get off this when we're done with this and go listen to Vogue by Madonna, and you'll be blown away.
Yeah.
And I heard that thing played on repeat and heavy rotation on the radio. And that's the thing that is awesome about this hobby.
Yeah.
You take all that music that's imprinted on you from when you're 14, 15, 13, whenever it was, and listen to it again through a decent setup, and it'll blow you away.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true, my friend. Awesome. I think we just passed our hour mark. Obviously, we had a little hiccup in between, but we're just about at an hour.
Can you edit that out with your interns over there at New Record Day?
I'm going to send it over to Valor. I know that he should be able to figure this out. So,
yeah, he's a nice young man.
Josh is one of the best. He's not as good as DMS. Everybody knows DMS is better than Josh, but Josh is pretty good.
Both good young men.
Good young men. I like them both.
Yeah.
Awesome, my friend. Well, this was great. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. We certainly do appreciate it.
Oh, my.
The bottom line
I didn't
is
know
this.
there's going to be music out there.
This is a production, Randy. We don't... Here at New Record Day, we don't mess around.
That's killing me, man. I feel like, I don't know. That's like baby making music.
It absolutely is. Here, let's just... Sarah, come on over here. I want to talk to you.
Oh, no. Now you made me feel strange on the inside.
No eye contact. No eye contact. All right. Guys, thanks for joining us. We certainly do appreciate it. I know this was a hot mess. It's all over the map. Let's go ahead.
That's okay, though.
It's okay.
Let's be authentic. Our authentic selves.
Exactly.
Ron.
Exactly. And we are. Should we give them a little nugget as to what we're thinking about for the next show? Should we?
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Breadcrumbs? I think we were talking about audio basics. Like, if we're going to have a starting point to this show, do we rewind back to the point where it's like, let's talk about amplifiers. Let's talk about, and then break that apart, like integrated amplifiers and then topologies of amplifiers, class A, class AB, class D. Like, that might be do we do that? Do we do that?
Well, yes, but if you get too far off on the weeds, I'm going to make silly jokes.
Yeah. We
things.
We actually have safe words. What was mine? Spatula or spillane?
No, a shillelagh. It's an axe handle that people used to use to beat other people into submission.
So we decided, just based on experience, knowing that either of us might go off-road too much, we're going to use safe words to be like, stop talking. Nobody cares what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Ron's is shillelagh. What is mine?
I don't know what I can't remember. Spectral decay? Spectral decay?
You got it. Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do safe words. If one of us starts rambling too much, we'll just spectral decay it. All right.
And
cool.
If it gets real boring, I've got the novelization of the Superman movie and Superman 3 movie, so I can just start reading out of that.
Maybe we should just give up on this whole YouTube thing and just review movies. Let's be honest. We'll be...
No, we need to review novelizations of 1983 movies.
Totally.
Do you know that book is still sold on Amazon and it has reviews?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Not a lot. It's got some reviews.
Wow, that is something else, man. Well, cool, man. That's insane. What's going on?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Play your fun song again. Make that happen. Ah, there it is. Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. My name is Ron, and we have Randy for the Ron and Randy Audio Hour. And we'll see you guys in the next show.